friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie Yo 643. In that neighborhood, my brothers and sisters. God has blessed me once again, being team, to get into another one of these true crime, horror, dark, deep, and mysterious, what the is going on type of videos with y'all. And today, we are going back to Jose Ortiz from Evil Intentions. Back to Evil Intentions, being team. And the title of the video is Sickening Cruelty, Liver Torn, Limbs Broken, Organ Squashed. The story of Christopher Gardner. Now, there's just a lot to take in from the title, y'all. Like, seriously, man. And then the thing about this that's already got me, y'all, before we even start the video, is the fact that Christopher is a little child, y'all. This is a little boy. And I already know y'all know that just from looking at my thumbnail. You know what I'm saying, man? It is just like, dude, this is going to be a crazy and wild one to get into. And we're about to get into it. Like, I just want to know why. I want to know the reason why. And whatever the reason is, it's not going to justify what happened to Christopher. But I don't know, y'all. Let's just check it out. But before we check it out, my brothers and sisters, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you might need. Get what you need, please. We are back to Jose Ortiz from Evil Intentions. Y'all got what y'all need, y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
An autopsy performed on the 3-year-old Sullivan County boy allegedly beaten to death by his mother and 2 of her friends may indicate the child was sexually abused. The examination also confirmed police suspicions that the boy had been severely abused. The mother, 27-year-old Tracy Irwin, her boyfriend, 33-year-old William Banker, and this friend are all charged with the child's murder. Investigators say Gardner was beaten to death Wednesday after he admitted taking a piece of candy.
Get whatever you may need. And time out, flag on the play. Hold on, man. I already done got my reason to why they did this to this little boy. Because he stole some fucking... I'm already getting the cussing, y'all. Let me calm down. Let me dial it back. So you mean to tell me they did this stuff to this little child because he stole a piece of candy? Like, out of all the reasons, and like I said, there's no reason that would excuse this ish, but this is it. And then this remind me of what we just watched from Mike from that chapter yesterday. A mama condoning other adults to do the most craziest ish to their children while they are actively involved in it. Let's go, y'all. Damn, that's a crazy ass fucking reason. I'm sorry, I'm still cussing. God damn it, man. I can't help it. Seriously, that is a crazy reason. Because he stole a piece of candy? Let's go.
He had a bite mark on his right forearm and different bruises and cuts in varying stages of healing. There's nothing in the world that I've ever seen as bad as how bad that kid was beat up.
Christopher Irwin Gardner was born on May 18th of 1994 and resided in the town of Mamakating in Sullivan County, New York. He was born to a woman named Tracy Ann Irwin, 27 years old. Their home was located on Mountain Road, just about an hour and a half away from Manhattan, about 65 miles northwest of the city. He had one younger sibling, who you'll see him pictured with here, and one of the few photos of him that exist. When it came to his father, he wasn't in the picture often. He lived out of state. By the time 1998 rolled around, his mother was in a new relationship and living with a man by the name of William Banker, age 33, whom would act as a, quote, father figure to Christopher. Christopher was described as a lively and happy child, known for his wavy brown hair and big blue eyes. At just 3 years old, he was at that age where kids are curious, developing a personality and sense of humor, and getting to know other kids his age. It was said that Christopher might have suffered from a learning disability, which needed to be handled with care and patience. But unfortunately, the innocent and adorable 3-year-old would be met with the complete opposite, and the smile that could be seen on his face in pictures was just a mask, and it covered the truth, a life of unimaginable cruelty. Now, I would love to be sitting here before you, telling you all about Christopher's happier days, telling you stories about the family who loved and protected him, but unfortunately, that's not going to be possible. From this point forward, we have no choice but to focus on tragic events that unfolded in April of 1998, and I do have to warn that the details are going to be extremely disturbing for some, so please, go in with caution. On April 1st of 1998, a paramedic for Hudson Valley Ambulance by the name of Michael Shabbat was visiting his mother at her home, also on Mountain Road. It was his day off, and visiting his mother while he had time was something he had done plenty of times before, but this day was very different. After a while of being at his mother's house, he would see a woman next door who appeared worried and frantic. She paced back and forth as she held onto a cordless home phone, as if she was trying to desperately reach someone. Given his experience in this line of work, it wasn't hard for him to recognize that something was very off. He put on his uniform shirt and made his way over to the woman's front porch to see if he could help. The woman pacing back and forth was Tracy Irwin. She lived right by the paramedic's mother, but what he found when he got there was something that he could have never imagined. As he approached the picnic table outside, he saw 3-year-old Christopher laying there, half conscious, and in absolutely horrifying shape. Within seconds of looking at him, the paramedic would notice injuries all over his small body. A large bruise across his forehead, blood coming out of his ears, his nose, and his mouth. Bruises covered every last inch of his tiny frame. His left arm was broken in 2 places. He had a deep bite mark on his right forearm, and various other lacerations all over, some that looked very fresh, while others looked like they had been there for a long time, slowly healing. Christopher,
Like, I just can't, y'all. I just can't understand how could any grown ass adult do this to a child. Like, it would never just seep into my brain. I would never be able to understand it. And all that stuff that Jose just said about what happened, the bodily injuries to Christopher that was found by the paramedic. The one thing that stand out to me, even though all this is horrible, is the fact that he had bite marks. So a grown ass adult is sitting right here biting the hell out of a little child. Sometimes it just make me just be like, and I know I said it and I say it again and again, like, it's this life. Am I on planet Earth? It's really people out here that's like this, that would do this to a little child. Not to mention that one of the people who was doing this was the damn parent.
Christopher was dying right before his eyes. He had never seen anything worse during his time on the job. A call was made to 911 by Irwin, who reported that her child fell down the stairs. Authorities and more medics arrived shortly, and Christopher was flown to St. Francis Hospital in Poughkeepsie. They tried everything they could to save his life, and he tried with everything he had to hang on. But almost 7 hours later, Christopher Gardner was pronounced dead, just a month shy of his 4th birthday. Of course,
Rest in peace to Christopher again, but hold on, man. I heard Jose say something that I just got to speak on. She said that he fell down some stairs. Is that the reason he got all these bodily injuries? Because he fell down some stairs? That's a terrible ass freaking excuse. Are you freaking kidding me?
Of course, authorities immediately turned their attention to Tracy Irwin and William Banker. Christopher was in their care, and there didn't seem to be too much emotion when they were questioned. It was almost like they really believed that authorities would believe their story about him falling down the stairs, like they had no idea what happened to him. But of course, the tactic failed. It wouldn't take long before both Tracy Irwin and William Banker were both put in handcuffs and arrested. Also arrested was 31-year-old Gianna Lynn Lester, also known as Jeannie, said to be the landlord of the two-family bi-level home where Christopher and his family lived. She, her husband, and their children also lived there. It was said that she was also at the home when the child sustained these horrifying injuries. Authorities had no doubt that they were somehow responsible, and upon questioning the three of them, they would try to lie and say they did nothing to harm the child. But of course, this was very far from the truth. The truth of Christopher's last moments was much more horrible than anyone could have ever imagined. Authorities would learn that this all started when Christopher took a piece of bridge mix candy from one of the adults. As if he had committed some sort of crime, he was grabbed and asked if he took the candy. His reply was yes, he had. This response from the child, for whatever reason, unleashed a level of rage that could only be described as heinous. William Banker and Jeannie Lester took Christopher and threw him into the bathroom, closing the door behind them, and they would begin to beat his small body mercilessly for the next hour. Tracy Irwin, his so-called mother, would sit in the other room and do absolutely nothing as they dragged, punched, and kicked Christopher as he screamed and cried in pain. She didn't lift a finger to help, and she couldn't care less. When the hour was up, Lester left the home, and Tracy Irwin would join William Banker in the bathroom to help inflict more unimaginable pain on the child for another 2 hours. They stuffed a dirty sock in his mouth to muffle his cries and continued to use him as a human punching bag, holding nothing back. They smoked cigarettes and used his body as an ashtray, branding his skin with small holes from putting the cigarettes out. According to them, at one point, Christopher took the sock out of his mouth and did what he could to defend himself by biting one of them. Both Irwin and Banker would begin to bite him back, creating multiple deep bite marks that went through his skin, and they were everywhere. Irwin would then step on the child as he lay on the ground, putting all of her weight on his stomach as all of the air left his body and his internal organs were squashed. They threw him into the bathtub, full force, forcing him under cold water. They then took him out of the bathtub and splashed him with scalding hot water, badly burning him. Christopher was then taken and thrown across the room like a rag doll and thrown down flights of stairs multiple times, resulting in his arms breaking, all while they continued to punch, kick, and toss the child around the home without a second thought, using a leather belt to whip him constantly until the belt was covered in his blood. 3 long hours of pure torture over a piece of candy. They would all be charged with second-degree murder the following morning, on Thursday, April 2nd of 1998.
Man, shit, I feel like they need to be charged with first-degree murder. Please, man, please, Jose, when we get to the end of this, tell me that at least those two that was actively involved in it get life in prison or the death penalty. Please don't let none of these people get off, because we all can agree, being team. Hold on, we can agree on one or two things. Either they was high as fuck off some fucking heroin and crack and PCP and LMNOP or whatever, man, type of drugs, you know what I'm saying? Smoking the ice or whatever to do this to this little boy. I'm talking about the mom and the boyfriend. I don't even remember their name. Don't even want to remember their name, to be honest. But y'all know who I'm talking about. To do this for 3 freaking hours, I'm talking about the stuff Jose was saying just had me like here like this. For them to do that, there's either one or two things. Either they was high as freak off some drugs, which don't excuse it. And don't y'all get me confused, being team, that don't excuse it. Or they are mentally ill. Or it's a combination of both. It could be a combination of both too. But I know we can all agree at this point that they mentally ill were freaking regardless. You know what I'm saying, man? If they high or not. I take back the whole being high thing. That don't even freaking matter. I take it all back, being team. These people are mentally ill. And the reason I'm bringing that all into the equation is because I don't want to get to the end of this video and find out that they was sent to the crazy home instead of fucking prison because they got mental health issues. Hell no. Life in prison for the both of them at the bare minimum. Let's go.
It was clear to authorities that this child suffered, but hearing the details come out of their mouths, It was sickening. A few days later, an official autopsy report was now ready for the authorities to review. And as hard as this may be to believe, it was even worse than they thought. The official reports would show the full extent of this child's suffering. It would take several hours just to count the number of injuries on his small body. The reports would show that the hours-long attack by these monsters resulted in almost 100 separate injuries. His body was discolored, appearing as a mix of blue and red from all the bruising. He suffered broken arms, burns to his torso, a broken jaw, bite marks, a collapsed lung, and a torn liver. Upon further examination, they would see that his private areas also had severe bruising and lacerations. He also appeared to be violated with severe injuries to his backside. Anything they could have done to him, they did. Hours of torture, and he had no means of escape. When he was found, he was half conscious, meaning that he felt every last bit of what was done to him. An innocent child's life brutally ended by three that many wouldn't even bother to call human, more like three demons who just wanted to inflict as much damage as possible to a defenseless child. It would also be learned that before Christopher's life was taken, calls were made to child services about the conditions of the home and possible abuse, calls that went ignored. Neighbors said that they often saw Christopher and the kids that belonged to Lester looking, quote, neglected and bedraggled, on top of them being mistreated and spoken to as if they were nothing.
The kids outside playing, you hear them screaming like, get your effing ass in here, you little bastards, all kinds of stuff. They were just real bad.
I don't know if they were abused or not, but they look kind of bedraggled and neglected.
Once all the information was in, it was clear that these three knew exactly what they were doing, and they made a conscious decision to make the child suffer. After the arrests, District Attorney Stephen Lungen was now making it his mission to see that Irwin, Banker, and Lester never saw freedom again. The idea was to make sure they all felt the effects of New York's capital punishment law, which was still considered pretty new at the time. In other words, he wanted to make sure that they would receive the lethal injection, and nothing less. His next step was to gather investigators and seek the help of the National Law Enforcement and Corrections Technology Center, a company that was created in 1994 and had never worked on anything like this, but they were able to use the tech that they had available to them in a variety of ways. They would utilize their law enforcement analysis facility, also known as LEAF, to recreate the injuries on Christopher's body, using computers to give a timeline of his injuries. For example, photos taken after he drew his last breath that showed all of his injuries were edited to show what his body would look like without those injuries. Then, one by one, the real photos would appear, showing one injury after another, as they would begin to cover his small body. This was done to show just how horrible this heartless attack was, to show the full extent of the severity, and to show that Christopher was indeed tortured over the course of 3 to 4 hours.
And I can just imagine it too, y'all, when Jose saying it. Like, you just look at the image of him and you can imagine like that little small body. How could that little small body have over 100 freaking injuries to it? You know what I'm saying? That means his whole freaking body just covered in bruises and stuff, man. This is so terrible, y'all. And I knew he was a little child, but I didn't know he was 3 years old when I first looked at the thumbnail that Jose put out before we started watching the video. You know what I'm saying? I knew it was a young child, but 3 years old, man, that's pretty much still a freaking baby in my eyes. And they did this ish to him. Oh, hey, well, one positive thing right now, one thing that I do have my hopes up for right now is the detective or whoever is trying to give all three of them the lethal injection, and I'm all for it. Let's hope they get it, y'all. Let's hope the freak they get that.
Ultimate goal was to show that whether it was low IQ, drug abuse, or whatever other excuses the defense could have thought of to minimize their roles in this terrible act, these full-grown adults certainly knew exactly what they were doing. There was no way around it. Upon seeing the recreation of the sickening injuries, Irwin and Banker would have no choice but to now plead guilty to first-degree murder. For a short time, Irwin and Banker changed their pleas. This was only after their defense attorney saw the computer-generated presentation that was put together by Leaf. But in the end, between their own admissions and the overwhelming evidence, They both pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in exchange for life in prison, without the possibility of ever getting parole. Irwin would spend the rest of her days at Bedford Hills Maximum Security Prison in Westchester County. William Banker was held at Great Meadow Maximum Security Prison in Washington County, New York, a prison that shut down just this month, November of 2024. He's now held at Clinton Correctional, where he'll spend his remaining days. After his sentencing, as he was let out of the courtroom, Banker looked over at the district attorney and gave him the finger. Clearly, he had learned nothing and showed no remorse. They're right where they belong, and they'll never be free again. Gianna Lester admitted to beating Christopher for an hour before leaving and returning later to place a call to 911. She pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of first-degree assault. She would only serve 4.5 years out of her 7-year sentence. She was released from Bedford Hills Prison in 2002. She's free.
No, hell no, hell no, hell no. Now, okay, if you want to give her a lighter sentence than they got, okay, I'll be fine with that. But 4 freaking years? Oh no, hell no. You got to get at least 25, goddammit. Fuck that shit. Hell no, I ain't with that, y'all. I don't like that part of it. I was with it though, as far as like them two. I'm glad they got life in prison at least. I really wanted them to get that death penalty. I really wanted them to get that lethal injection. But they were smart enough to no, if we don't plead guilty, if we don't cop a plea, we more than likely finna end up dying. So they cop the plea for life in prison. But okay, I'm good with that, but I'm not good with this freaking 4 years. I don't like 4.5, whatever. Tomato. I don't like that.
Free today. For Christopher, the only moment of relief he felt on April 1st of 1998 was the moment his pain came to an end, free from a short and tragic life of neglect, abuse, and ultimately, horrible torture, something he had been faced with for who knows how long. He barely got to live at all. The child once known for his adorable face and brown curls would soon become known for his final, horrifying moments as Sullivan County's most horrific case of abuse, left in the care of monsters who just wanted to watch him suffer. As the community became outraged at his life coming to such a horrible end, the articles, the cries for justice, the promises to never let this happen again would quickly fade away, like they always do. What was supposed to be the Christopher Gardner Act, a bill that would have promised much harsher penalties for crimes like these, was never approved. The bill was dismissed and never taken seriously. Christopher, like many children before and after him, suffered a truly horrendous fate. And as often is the case, those who could have taken the proper steps to prevent this tragedy and others just like it would instead become caught up trying to defend themselves and their lack of action when they should have been trying to come up with a solution. Many will say that the blame only falls on those who committed the act. It's clear who's responsible. But it doesn't mean that there isn't a job to be done. Those who have been hired at child services and other agencies are in these positions for a reason, and the child, along with prevention, should always be the priority. When there's a crime being committed, or someone is in need of aid when they're near death, you wouldn't expect for authorities and paramedics to walk by you and say it isn't their problem because they weren't the ones that hurt you. They still have a job, and they're expected to carry it out, no matter what. The same goes for child services and bills that should be passed to try and prevent horror stories like this. Different parties all play their role, and while everyone is so busy debating whose responsibility it was, it's innocent children like these that will continue to pay the ultimate price. While all 3 of the demons responsible for this crime are alive today, Christopher Gardner's final resting place would be at Hillside Cemetery in Middletown, New York, where he was buried. Etched into his headstone are the words, Christopher Irwin Gardner, God's gift, returned to God. If alive today, he would be 30 years old. Rest in peace, Christopher Gardner, and my deepest condolences go out to his surviving sibling. You aren't forgotten.
Police say they carried out a 3-hour torture session in their home, triggered when the boy took some candy from one of the adults. Police say there was a 4th adult living in the house, but that person hasn't been charged with any crime.
Rest in peace to Christopher Gardner, man. Jesus Christ, y'all. It's just so crazy. It just make it, like I said, man, it just make me be like, damn, am I living in reality? Like, it make me want to pinch the hell out of my goddamn self, man. Like, is this shit real, what I just listened to? Yes, this is what really go on, y'all. It's like no matter how many stories that Jose tell about these children being just going through just the most horrible thing, even for a freaking adult, it would never cease to amaze me, man. And shout out to Jose for another great video, man. Shout out to him for doing another great job telling the story of Christopher. And it was so eerily similar to Mike from that chapter from yesterday, y'all, as far as like it's a parent, a mama to be exact, who got a boyfriend on the side that not even on the side, but who got a boyfriend who living in the house, and long story short, story long, they end up both being involved with the little child being murdered. It's just like, man, this stuff really goes on out here. What the freak? I'm good with their sentences, like I said, especially the mama and the boyfriend. I still don't remember their names, don't care to remember them. But I'm glad they got that. I wish they would have got the death penalty. Mad about the other one who only got 4 years, 4.5 years, whatever. Wish she would have got more, but it's also crazy you think about, like I said, man, he 3 years old. He basically still a baby at that age. And then what Jose said, at this age, he would be, in this time, he would be 30. It's just to think about how 27 years have passed that he lost over nothing. But in a way, it's like, maybe it's good that God gone brought him home and he gone left earth, because they had been torturing him from a long time. I'm pretty sure he had got to the point where he probably was tired of it. I don't freaking know, y'all. I don't know, man. At the end of the day, I don't want y'all to get me confused. I wish more than anything that he did live to see his 30th birthday and beyond, just like I have, and just like a lot of y'all have or will in the future, if God bless you or whatever, man. Just rest in peace to freaking Chris Gardner, y'all. That is a terrible, terrible story. But Jose did a great job telling it once again. And like he said, Christopher Gardner will never, ever, ever be forgotten. But I digress. I'm gonna let y'all go, Bean Team. I appreciate y'all coming on back as always. And before y'all leave, just please, 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 please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And remember this: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.